You are resisting arrest. Stop resisting!
What are you doing? Let go of me.
Oh my God, they're arresting her. What are you doing? Get your hands off me!
You are coming with me now. Move.
Hey, we are filming this. Leave her alone.
Rain slicked the asphalt, turning the school parking lot into a mirror of flashing blue and red. Marcus Reed's hands were already on the hood when the officer barked, "Don't move." He hadn't moved in the first place. His briefcase had fallen open beside his foot, papers soaked, lesson plans bleeding ink into the puddle. 10 years of teaching civics, and tonight he was being lectured about compliance by a cop half his age. "Sir," Marcus said, voice tight, "this is a misunderstanding. I work here." Officer Daniels's flashlight climbed Marcus's face, pausing on his brown skin like a search warrant. "Funny," Daniel said, smirking. "You people always work somewhere." The words hit harder than the shove that followed. Students were watching from classroom windows. He heard the whisper of phone cameras. Every muscle in his jaw locked. The metal cuffs clicked, deliberate and loud, sealing humiliation into sound. Then, silence. Except for the radio crackle. "Suspect detained," Daniel said. Marcus turned his head, rain tracing down the side of his face. "Do you even know who I am?" "Doesn't matter." Marcus stared straight ahead. "It will." The camera phones kept recording. A principal's voice shouted from the door. The crowd surged closer. Marcus's credentials, teacher ID, state bar license tucked into his wallet, remained unseen, irrelevant under the flashing lights. Daniels hauled him upright, oblivious to the tremor running through the air, to the fact that the man he'd just arrested would soon be his legal opponent in court. The squad car door slammed. The rain stopped, and for one sharp, breathless second, Marcus smiled. The rain began just as Marcus Reed stepped out of the faculty lounge. He could smell it before it came, metallic, sharp, cutting through the faint scent of copier toner. His last period's essays were still in his bag, next to the ungraded midterms. He was already thinking about dinner when the flashing lights split the dusk. 2 police cruisers. Wrong neighborhood for speed traps. He slowed. The light soaked the wet pavement in violent color. "Excuse me, sir." The voice carried authority sharpened by suspicion. Marcus turned, raising his hand slightly. "Yes, officer?" "Step away from the vehicle." "My vehicle?" He frowned. "This is the teacher's lot." Now, Marcus froze. Something in the tone, flat, practiced, accusatory, told him there'd be no easy conversation. The officer, Daniels, white, mid-30s, jaw clenched like it was used to winning, approached with one hand on his holster. Marcus's keys jingled softly in his hand. "I'm faculty here. Keep your hands where I can see them." Marcus did. Behind Daniels, another officer hovered near the cruiser, eyes shifting between them, uncertain. Rain turned to drizzle, glinting on the hood of Marcus's old Honda. "Got a report of a break-in." "You fit the description," Daniel said. "Description?" Marcus asked. Calm but clipped. Black male, dark jacket. "That describes a third of this city." Daniel's smirk didn't reach his eyes. "Turn around." Marcus didn't move. "Officer, my ID's in my wallet." "I can show you." Daniel stepped forward. "Don't reach." "I wasn't." "Turn around." The command sliced through the air. Marcus obeyed. Hands pressed against cold metal. Students were still in the building, debate club, basketball practice. He could feel their eyes from behind glass. He heard one of them gasp. A phone camera clicked. Daniels patted him down roughly. "Found nothing. Didn't care." "This is unnecessary," Marcus said. "You people always say that." Marcus's shoulders went rigid. "What did you say?" Daniels didn't answer. He cuffed him instead. "Metal bit skin, sir," a voice called out. Principal Hines, umbrella in hand, jogged toward them. "Officer, what's going on?" "Got a suspect matching a burglary call," Daniels said. "That's Mr. Reed. He teaches here, civics." Daniels hesitated for a split second, then shook his head. "We'll confirm at the station." Marcus turned his head slightly. "You're making a mistake. Then you can explain it downtown." Rain intensified again as if on cue. Marcus's tie clung to his neck. Hines tried to intervene, but Daniels shut him down with a look. "Step back, sir. Procedure, procedure." The words sounded like a shield and a verdict at once. Marcus was guided, no, dragged to the cruiser. His briefcase tipped over, spilling folders into the puddle. He saw the ink run. His students' essays. Justice isn't blind. It just looks away. He almost laughed at the irony. Almost inside the car, everything smelled of sweat and vinyl. The cage grated against his knees. Daniels closed the door, rain streaking down his uniform like camouflage. From outside, Hines' voice was muffled. "Officer, please, he's—" Then the door shut. Silence. Marcus stared at his reflection in the partition glass. His own face, distorted by rain and red light, stared back like an accusation. He whispered to himself, low enough that only he could hear it. "Stay calm, think." His wrists ached. His pulse steadied. Daniels got into the driver's seat, glanced back once. "You got something to say?" "Yes," Marcus said, his voice quiet, contained. "I'm a lawyer," Daniels laughed. "Sure you are." The engine started. The car moved. The school disappeared in the mirror, just a shape under stormlight. A place where truth had been handcuffed in plain sight. Marcus leaned his head back, eyes open, mind already shifting gears. If they wanted a suspect, they'd chosen the wrong man. He would give them a case. The fluorescent lights hummed above him, harsh and constant. They flattened everything, color, depth, dignity. Marcus sat on a metal bench in the booking room, wrists red where the cuffs had rubbed. The air smelled of disinfectant and cold metal. Across from him, Officer Daniels filled out paperwork, his handwriting slow and deliberate, as though this were routine. It was to him. Marcus studied the man's face, creased forehead, tight jaw, the kind of confidence that came from power unchecked. "Name?" Daniels asked without looking up. "You already have it," Marcus said evenly. "Say it." Marcus exhaled. "Marcus Anthony Reed." Daniels typed it into the computer, fingers clattering. "Occupation?" "Teacher." A pause. "And attorney." Daniels' fingers stopped for half a second, then resumed. "You lawyers always think that means something." "It usually does," Marcus said. A younger officer entered, holding a clipboard. Her eyes darted toward Marcus, then back to Daniels. "You want me to process his prints?" "Yeah, run him through." Daniels leaned back, folding his arms. She hesitated. "It says here he's faculty at Lincoln High. The call came from a residential area." Daniels shrugged. "Fits the description. We'll sort it out." Marcus caught her eye. "You could check my ID in my wallet." "It's in evidence now, isn't it?" She looked uncomfortable. "That's procedure for intake." Daniels cut her off. "He'll get his chance." Marcus saw it in her face. Recognition, quiet guilt. But she said nothing. Silence was its own uniform here. The fingerprint scanner beeped. Daniels smirked. "You must be used to paperwork, huh?" "I'm used to accountability," Marcus said. That word landed heavier than he intended. Daniels' expression stiffened and he turned back to the form. "Charges?" the young officer asked. Daniels didn't hesitate. "Resisting arrest, suspicious behavior, trespassing." Marcus let out a short breath, half laugh, half disbelief. "Suspicious behavior on my own campus." "You can dispute it later," Daniels said. Marcus leaned forward slightly. "I will." The tone carried weight, controlled, lawyerly, unafraid. Daniels' eyes flicked up, assessing him in a new light. Moments later, Marcus was escorted to a holding cell. Inside, a flickering light cast shadows against the peeling paint. He sat down on the bench, back straight, breathing slow. The young officer from earlier appeared at the bars with a clipboard. "You get one call," she said softly. He nodded. "Phone?" She handed it through. Their fingers brushed, brief, human, careful. Marcus dialed from memory. "Lena?" Her voice came through instantly, tight with panic. "Marcus, where are you? Someone sent me a video. What's happening?" "I'm at the station," he said. "I need you to stay calm." "Calm?" "They had you in cuffs outside your school. It's already online. Half the city's seen it." He closed his eyes. The ache behind his temples grew sharper. "Then let them see it. Don't post anything. Don't call anyone yet. Marcus, listen." His tone softened, the steel beneath controlled. "They'll release me soon. There's no evidence, no report that makes sense. But I need you to gather the footage, everything, unedited. Keep copies off social media. You understand?" She inhaled shakily. "You're thinking lawsuit. I'm thinking precedent." He heard her swallow hard. "They're saying you resisted." I didn't even raise my voice. Footsteps echoed down the hall, Daniels again. Marcus turned away slightly, lowering his tone. "I have to go. I'll be home by morning." Lena's voice dropped. "You sure?" "I've never been sure of anything." He hung up. Daniels stopped at the cell, smirking. "You lawyers think you're untouchable." You'll learn. Marcus looked up, calm, deliberate. I already did. In law school. Daniel's jaw twitched, but he walked away. The young officer lingered a moment longer. You really teach at Lincoln? Yes. My cousin goes there, she said quietly. She said you helped her get into college. Marcus gave a small nod. Then she'll know what kind of man I am. Her expression hardened, conflicted. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. He didn't answer. Words like that couldn't undo anything. Hours passed. The cell door finally opened. Daniel stood with a clipboard, tone curt. Charges dropped. You're free to go. Marcus stood. Just like that? Clerical error. He took the release form from Daniel's hand. You'll want to keep that story straight. Daniel's smirk faltered for the first time. Marcus walked past him without a glance. Through the harsh white light, through the smell of bleach and authority. Outside, the sky was still gray but clearing. His car was gone, impounded. His dignity wasn't. He breathed once deeply. The fight had just begun. By sunrise, Marcus Reed's arrest had become public property. The video, 2 shaky minutes recorded by a trembling student, spread faster than gossip could breathe. By noon, it was on every platform. The civics teacher in handcuffs, the officer's smirk, the rain-slick parking lot. The caption beneath it read, He teaches justice. Look what justice did to him. Marcus sat at his kitchen table, the glow of the laptop screen reflecting in his untouched coffee. The comments scrolled faster than he could read. Unbelievable, typical. How many times does this happen? Lena paced behind him, phone to her ear. Yes, I'm confirming the video's authentic. No, he's not giving a statement yet. He shut the laptop. The noise was starting to rot the silence inside his skull. Lena ended her call and turned toward him. You're a headline now, Marcus. He looked up, expression unreadable. I was a target before I was a headline. She sat across from him. They want interviews. Civil rights groups, news outlets, students, everyone's talking about you. Talking doesn't change what happened. It changes who listens. He leaned back, eyes narrowing. If I talk now, it becomes spectacle. I don't want sympathy. I want accountability. Lena's jaw tightened. Then you'll need strategy. The department already issued a statement. Officer acted on credible suspicion, no racial bias determined at this time. Marcus gave a low laugh. They wrote that before I was even released. They always do. He stood pacing to the window. Outside, the world moved normally. Dog walkers, school buses, morning routines. His didn't. There was a knock at the door. Lena frowned. Who? He opened it to find a cluster of students. 3 of them, soaked from rain, eyes wide with worry and anger. Mr. Reed, one said, voice trembling. We saw what they did to you. We're organizing a protest, he blinked. A protest? Yeah, at the precinct. After school. Lena shot him a warning look, but Marcus knelt slightly to meet their eyes. Listen to me. Protest if you must, but safely. No confrontation. You film everything, you stay together, and you don't give them a reason. One of them, Jamal, captain of the debate team, nodded fiercely. We just want them to see who you really are. Marcus sighed, a weary half-smile breaking through. Then be smarter than they expect you to be. After they left, Lena folded her arms. You can't stop this wave. It's already moving. Then I'll steer it. He retrieved a manila folder from his briefcase and set it on the table. Inside, printed statutes, civil complaint templates, case law citations. The lawyer in him had taken over. You're filing? She asked quietly. Civil suit. Wrongful arrest. Civil rights violation. Her eyes met his. You're going to war. He didn't deny it. By afternoon, the school board called an emergency meeting. Marcus attended via video conference, shirt crisp, voice even. Principal Hines appeared first, looking exhausted. Marcus, we want you to know the district is reviewing the situation. Reviewing, Marcus repeated flatly. Not defending? Public sentiment is volatile, another administrator said. We have to be careful. Careful? Marcus cut in. You watched one of your teachers handcuffed on your property, and you're worried about careful? Marcus, he leaned closer to the camera. You don't need to defend me. Defend the truth. That's your job. The silence on the line was heavy, bureaucratic, cowardly. He ended the call without waiting for their reply. By evening, protesters gathered outside the precinct. Students, parents, community members. Signs rose, justice for Mr. Reed, teach the police a lesson. The chants carried across the wet pavement. Inside the precinct, Daniel stood by the window, watching. His partner muttered, "They're saying he's a lawyer." Daniels didn't look away. "He's a liar," but his tone lacked conviction. The video had stripped away certainty. He turned toward the desk sergeant. "Command says stay quiet. No statements." "Good, you'd make it worse," the sergeant said dryly. Daniel's jaw flexed. "I followed procedure." "Then why's the whole city saying otherwise?" Daniels didn't answer. Back at home, Marcus was on the phone with an old colleague, a civil rights attorney named Janelle Ortiz. "I saw the footage," she said. "You have a case, ironclad." "I know. I'm filing pro se. You sure about that?" "Yes," she paused. "You know what they'll do, right? They'll dig up your past, your family, your students, anything to muddy it." "I'm counting on it," he said. "It'll show who they are." Lena listened from the doorway, arms folded, voice low. "You're burning every bridge. Some bridges deserve to burn." Night fell. The video kept circulating. News anchors dissected it. Politicians tweeted vague condemnations. The city's mayor promised an independent review. Marcus turned off every screen. He stood by the window again, watching the reflections of blue light still flickering from the street, echoes of the night before. Lena stepped beside him. "You could walk away. No one would blame you." "I can't," he said quietly. "Every student who saw me in cuffs deserves to see what happens when you stand back up." She touched his arm, her voice softer now. "Then promise me one thing." "What?" "Don't lose yourself to it." He looked at her, eyes shadowed but steady. "I already lost something that night. The rest, I'll decide what's left." The room fell silent. Outside, the chant swelled again, distant, rhythmic, defiant, and somewhere inside the precinct, Daniel's phone buzzed with a notification. "Officer involved in wrongful arrest under investigation." He stared at it for a long time before swiping it away. Marcus, meanwhile, opened his laptop again, typed the first line of his lawsuit, and read it aloud like a vow. Plaintiff Marcus Reed alleges deprivation of civil rights under color of law. The rain started again, faint but steady. The fight had gone public. There was no turning back. Marcus Reed didn't dream anymore. He remembered. That night, sleep came shallow and broken, memories bleeding through the cracks. He was 24 again, walking across the stage at Howard Law, diploma trembling in his hands. His mother had cried so hard the camera shook. His father, a retired postal worker, had said only one thing afterward. "Now you know the law. Just don't expect it to know you." At the time, Marcus thought it was cynicism. Later, he learned it was prophecy. The memory shifted. He saw himself at his first firm. Black suit, perfect diction. The only black associate in a boardroom full of men who called him articulate, like it was a compliment. He'd lasted 2 years before leaving, trading courtrooms for classrooms. He told everyone it was about purpose. But the truth was simpler. He was tired of explaining his own humanity in every meeting. He'd become a teacher to build what the system refused to give. Young minds armed with understanding. "Law is language," he told his students. "If you can read the fine print, no one can sell you injustice disguised as procedure." Now, lying awake, those words mocked him. He'd followed every rule, every caution, every polite demand for respectability, and still ended up face first on the hood of his own car. The morning light found him still awake. Lena stirred beside him. "You didn't sleep," she murmured. "I wasn't trying to." She turned toward him. "You think you can fight them and stay the same?" "No," he said. "But maybe that's the point." Downstairs, his briefcase lay open on the table. He pulled out the old photo of his father in uniform, U.S. Army 1970. Behind the stoic face, there'd always been warning. "Know your rights, son. But know your reality more." He placed the photo beside his case file. The memories weren't sentimental anymore. They were evidence. At school, the halls felt different. Teachers nodded too carefully. Students watched him with reverence and guilt. In his first class back, Jamal raised his hand. "Mr. Reed, are you suing them?" "Yes," Marcus said simply. A low murmur rippled through the room. Jamal leaned forward. "You're gonna win, right?" Marcus paused. "Winning's not the goal. Then what is?" "To make losing impossible for the next one." Silence followed. Dense, thoughtful, heavier than applause. After class, Principal Hines approached him at the doorway. "You're sure you want to do this, Marcus?" "The district's nervous." "I'm sure." Hines nodded slowly. "Then, I hope you know what you're starting." Marcus adjusted his tie. "I do. The question is whether they do." As he walked back to his office, his phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "Unknown, you should drop the case. You won't like what we find if we dig." He stared at it for a long second, then deleted it. Fear wasn't new. Fear was background noise. He opened his laptop, looked over his draft complaint again, and whispered the words his father once used before going to vote in a town that didn't want him there. Every system resists correction. Marcus's hand didn't shake as he hit save. By the time the afternoon bell rang, the past was no longer memory. It was motive. The summons landed on Marcus's doorstep 3 days later, folded in an envelope stamped City Attorney's Office. No apology, no courtesy, just a counterclaim. They were suing him back. Lena read it aloud, disbelief hardening into fury. "Defamation? They're accusing you of damaging the officer's reputation?" Marcus leaned against the kitchen counter, expression flat. "It's a diversion. They're signaling how far they'll go." She tossed the papers onto the table. "They filmed you being humiliated and you're the problem?" "That's the system's first defense, turn the wound into a weapon," the television murmured from the background. News segments. Officials reciting prepared lines about ongoing investigations and commitment to fairness. A brief image of Daniels appeared. Clean-shaven, polished uniform, eyes steady. The Chiron read, "Officer targeted by online backlash after viral arrest video." Lena muted the TV. "They're rebranding him." Marcus didn't respond. He was watching the screen like a man studying an old opponent's habits. His phone buzzed. Janelle Ortiz again. "They're playing dirty, Marcus," she said. "Internal Affairs is stonewalling subpoenas. The union's backing Daniels publicly. I expected as much. You'll need witnesses. I have plenty." Witnesses aren't enough when the story gets rewritten. Marcus looked toward the window, where the city stretched gray and indifferent. "Then I'll write it back." Later that day, the school superintendent requested a confidential discussion. Marcus arrived in a suit, lawyer mode engaged. Superintendent Greer smiled thinly. "Marcus, I'll be frank. The district supports your right to seek justice, but the publicity," Marcus interrupted, "is inconvenient. We have to consider public trust." "You mean funding?" Greer's silence confirmed it. "Are you suggesting I step down?" Marcus asked. "Temporarily," Greer said, feigning sympathy. "Until things calm." Marcus's voice stayed low. "They won't calm. They'll just forget." "That's not the same thing." Greer folded her hands. "I'm offering you a graceful exit," he stood. "Graceful for whom?" She didn't answer. He left the office without another word, every step echoing the quiet truth of institutional cowardice. That evening, his mailbox filled with letters, some supportive, others venomous. "You're making it about race. Play the victim much? Thank you for standing up for us." The contradiction was dizzying, proof that justice meant different things depending on the color of the speaker. At the precinct, Daniel sat across from his department lawyer, a man named Keller, gray suit, practiced calm. "You understand, Officer Daniels. This case isn't about what happened," Keller said. "It's about perception. Right now you're the face of overreach." Daniels frowned. He was mouthing off. "Wouldn't comply. Doesn't matter. The optics are poison. So what do? We make him angry. Publicly. Force him to lose composure, look vengeful. If he's seen as emotional, the case weakens." Daniels leaned back, eyes narrowing. "You're saying provoke him?" Keller smiled. "I'm saying remind everyone he's human. People forgive cops faster than they forgive emotion." Across town, Marcus sat with Lena, reviewing statements from students, colleagues, and witnesses. He noticed one name missing, Officer Ruiz, Daniel's partner. "He hasn't spoken?" Lena asked. "No. Which means he's protecting someone. Or himself." That night, Marcus filed formal requests for police body cam footage, radio logs, and Daniel's prior complaint record. He knew the process would be slow, obstructed, buried under red tape labeled ongoing investigation. But truth was patient. Days passed. The media war escalated. Talk shows debated whether Marcus was too confrontational. Comment sections accused him of playing the race card. Through it all, Marcus remained silent in public, visible only through court filings and brief appearances outside the courthouse. The stillness became strategy. Every word he didn't say added weight to the ones he would. When the preliminary hearing date arrived, the courtroom was half reporters, half uniformed officers. Daniel sat at the defense table, posture rehearsed, expression humble for the cameras. Marcus entered alone, carrying nothing but a binder. "Mr. Reed," the judge said, peering over glasses, "you're representing yourself?" "Yes, Your Honor," the judge nodded. "Proceed." Daniel's lawyer spoke first, voice oily with feigned courtesy. "This is an unfortunate misunderstanding, magnified by media hysteria. Officer Daniels acted within reason based on a legitimate dispatch report." Marcus stood. "Objection to characterization. There was no legitimate report, only a falsified call with no name attached." The judge motioned. "Mr. Reed, you'll have your chance." He waited, hands folded. When it came, his voice was deliberate, cutting. "What happened that night was not misunderstanding, it was presumption. I was arrested not for what I did, but for what I looked like. And when a teacher in handcuffs becomes a viral video, that's not hysteria. That's evidence." A murmur ran through the room. Keller smirked, whispering something to Daniels. Marcus caught it. "He's angry already." But Marcus wasn't angry. He was controlled. He'd learned long ago that rage was only admissible when it served a purpose. After the hearing outside the courthouse, cameras swarmed. Reporters shouted questions. One microphone caught him mid-stride. "Mr. Reed, are you fighting for money or principle?" He stopped. "Principle costs more." The quote went viral within hours. That night, Daniel scrolled through the headlines, jaw tightening. For the first time, he sensed something turning. Not guilt, exposure. Marcus, meanwhile, stood before his class again the next morning. He taught the Bill of Rights. His students listened differently now. Every amendment sounded like autobiography. He wrote on the board, "Equal protection." Then, under it, he added, "Except when inconvenient." He turned to face the room. "Tomorrow," he said, "we start discussing what happens when words lose their meaning." The fight was no longer about him. It was about the language of power and who got to define it. The courtroom was too cold, the air thick with tension and fluorescent hum. Marcus Reed adjusted his tie, the navy one his father used to call his armor tie, and stood from the plaintiff's table. Across from him, Officer Daniels sat in uniform, hands folded, trying to look composed. His lawyer, Keller, whispered something in his ear that made his jaw tighten. The judge glanced at Marcus. "Mr. Reed, you may proceed with your cross-examination." Marcus stepped forward slowly, a quiet precision in every move. His voice came calm, deliberate. Measured restraint forged from humiliation and months of resolve. "Officer Daniels," he began. "On the night of March 8th, you responded to a call reporting a burglary. Correct?" Daniels nodded. "Yes." Marcus turned a page in his notes. "And that call described the suspect as a black male in a dark jacket." "Yes." "Nothing else?" "Not that I recall." Marcus paused, letting the silence expand. "So no height, no build, no vehicle, no name?" Daniels hesitated. "No." Marcus stepped closer. "And yet, when you saw me in the parking lot of a public high school where I work, you decided that description was sufficient cause for detainment." Keller interjected. "Objection, argumentative," the judge gestured. "Overruled." "The witness will answer." Daniels shifted. "I acted on the information I had." Marcus nodded. "Information or assumption?" "Objection." Marcus raised a hand slightly. "Withdrawn." He smiled faintly. "Let's talk about procedure then. Did you request identification before handcuffing me?" "I instructed you not to move." "Did you see my ID badge hanging on my neck?" Daniels looked away. It was raining. Visibility was low. "Rain?" Marcus repeated softly. "Is that your explanation for ignoring the words Lincoln High Faculty, printed in bold on the badge?" Daniels's lawyer objected again, citing tone, but the judge didn't bite. The silence from the gallery was electric. Marcus turned toward the projection screen. "Let's watch the footage." The video played. Daniels shouting, Marcus complying, the metal cuffs glinting in the rain. Gasps rippled through the spectators as Marcus's voice, steady, calm, echoed. "I work here." Marcus paused the video. That's me speaking clearly. Is it not? Daniel stared at the screen. Yes, and that's you ignoring it. I was ensuring safety. Whose? Marcus asked. Daniel's mouth opened, then closed. Marcus took a slow breath. Officer, have you ever mistaken a white teacher for a criminal? Keller objected instantly. Irrelevant. The judge leaned forward. Overruled. The witness may answer. Daniel's voice dropped. No. No, you haven't. Marcus's voice sharpened, slicing through the quiet. Because white mistakes are forgivable. Black presence is probable cause, Keller rose. Objection, overruled, Marcus let the echo hang. You had no probable cause, no warrant, no verification, and no reason except one. My skin fit your description better than my credentials did. The courtroom was silent. Even the judge stopped writing. Daniel stared down at his hands. Marcus flipped to another document. Officer, are you aware that your department received 3 prior complaints for racially biased stops in the last year? Keller shot up. Those were internal matters, Marcus cut in. Internal, meaning invisible until forced into daylight. He set the paper on the podium. Let the record reflect, Your Honor, that systemic issues are relevant to motive and conduct. The judge nodded slowly. Noted. Marcus turned back to Daniels. Do you believe all citizens are equal under the law? Yes. Even when you're the law? Daniel swallowed. I did my job. Marcus's voice softened. Then your job needs redefining. He turned to the jury box. The law doesn't fail in moments like this. It obeys its writers. Bias doesn't appear out of nowhere. It's enforced by habit, protected by silence, excused by policy. My arrest wasn't an accident. It was an outcome. Keller rose again, desperate now. Your Honor, this is grandstanding. The judge shook his head. It's testimony. Marcus walked back to his table, closing his binder. No further questions. Daniel sat rigid, sweat visible along his collar. His face had gone pale under courtroom light. The judge called for recess. Outside, reporters swarmed the hallway, shoving microphones toward Marcus. Mr. Reed, do you think Officer Daniels was personally racist? Marcus paused. Personal racism is a symptom. I'm arguing against the disease. Flashbulbs went off. The hallway filled with the hum of headlines forming in real time. Inside the defense room, Keller slammed his folder shut. He's destroying you, Daniels. You should have settled. Daniels rubbed his temples. He's turning it into philosophy. No, Keller said quietly. He's turning it into evidence. That night, Marcus sat at his desk at home, surrounded by transcripts, his fingers trembling from exhaustion. Lena approached, holding 2 cups of coffee. You killed him in there, she said softly. No, Marcus said. I revealed him. There's a difference. She sat beside him. You think the jury saw it? They saw enough. He leaned back, staring at the ceiling, the hum of courtroom lights still echoing in his ears. You know what the hardest part was? What? Not losing control. Every second I wanted to scream. But if I did, they'd call it aggression instead of truth. Lena touched his hand. Then you already won. Marcus shook his head. Winning's not verdict. It's what they remember. Outside, rain started again, soft, steady, relentless. And for the first time since his arrest, Marcus felt the power shift. Not complete. Not final. But real. The system had been forced to answer questions it couldn't explain away. And that, he thought, was where justice truly began. The courtroom was still, heavy with anticipation. The jury had been out for 6 hours. Marcus sat motionless, hands folded, eyes fixed on the door where 12 strangers would decide whether truth still meant anything. Lena was behind him, silent, unreadable. The hum of whispers filled the room. Reporters, city officials, officers from Daniel's precinct sitting rigid in their uniforms. Every sound felt amplified. The scrape of a chair, the shuffle of paper, the faint buzz of a broken light above the judge's bench. Then, the door opened. The bailiff's voice cut through. All rise. Marcus stood. Daniel stood too, shoulders tense, jaw locked. The foreperson held the verdict form, eyes avoiding both men. The judge nodded. Have you reached a verdict? We have, Your Honor. Please read it. The foreperson's voice trembled slightly. In the matter of Reed versus Daniels, we find the defendant liable for wrongful arrest, unlawful detainment, and violation of civil rights. A wave of murmurs spread through the courtroom, sharp inhalations. A stifled gasp from the gallery. Marcus closed his eyes. For the first time since that night, his breath came steady. Daniels didn't move. Keller leaned toward him, whispering something about appeals, procedure, damage control. But Marcus didn't listen. The words didn't matter. The sound of accountability was enough. The judge's gavel struck once. The court awards compensatory and punitive damages in favor of the plaintiff. Marcus turned, meeting Lena's eyes. She didn't smile. She just nodded, slow and deliberate. Reporters swarmed again as the courtroom emptied. "Mr. Reed, do you consider this justice?" He paused at the doorway. "No," he said quietly. "It's acknowledgement. Justice still costs more than this." Outside, the sky was pale and overcast. Marcus stepped onto the courthouse steps as cameras flashed. The cold air bit at his face. He thought of his students, of Jamal's question, "You're gonna win, right?" And the answer that hadn't changed. Winning wasn't the goal. The statement hit the morning news before he reached his car. Local teacher lawyer wins civil rights case against police officer. But Marcus knew the real headline lived elsewhere, in every parent who'd once warned their child to stay polite, and every officer now, sitting in silent training rooms pretending not to see. Themselves in the footage, Daniels exited through the side door, flanked by his attorney. For a moment their eyes met across the parking lot. No words, just the unbearable space between consequence and comprehension. Marcus turned away first. He didn't need to see whether remorse followed. He'd learned long ago. Accountability doesn't require repentance, only exposure. That night, the neighborhood gathered outside his home. Neighbors, students, parents, candles, cameras, cautious applause. Someone handed Marcus a small sign. "We saw, we believe." He held it briefly, then lowered it.
"Keep watching," he said.
"Don't turn away when it's not me." Lena stood beside him, the light of the candles flickering across their faces. Inside, on the living room wall, hung his father's photo. Army uniform, steady eyes. Marcus stared at it for a long time. "I kept your promise," he murmured. "I made them look." Outside, the crowd's voices rose into something between mourning and celebration. Marcus walked to the window and watched the streetlights flicker across wet pavement. His reflection looked older, tired, hollow-eyed, but standing, he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. "Now we start the real work." The candles outside kept burning, defiant against the dark, and though the verdict had been spoken, the silence that followed felt louder, an echo that didn't fade. Justice had shown its face, brief and imperfect. But for the first time it had been seen. 3 months later, the courthouse headlines had faded. The world had moved on, but Marcus Reed had not. He sat alone in his classroom after hours, sunlight bleeding across the whiteboard. The desks were empty, yet the silence felt occupied, by memory, by the echo of that night, by everything that came after. The school board had reinstated him with ceremony and a carefully worded apology. Cameras rolled. Words like community healing and path forward filled the air, but Marcus could still feel the eyes of those who'd once looked away. The applause hadn't erased the tremor in his hands when police sirens passed outside. The door creaked. Lena entered carrying a small box. "They sent another letter," she said. "Another? From the Department of Justice this time. They're opening an investigation into Daniel's department." Marcus nodded slowly. "Too late for me." "Not for the next one." He looked up, meeting her gaze. "You really think it changes anything?" She hesitated. "It changes who gets to pretend they didn't know." Marcus exhaled. "That's not change. That's paperwork." Lena placed the box on his desk. "Then why keep fighting?" He didn't answer right away. He looked around the classroom, the posters on the walls, the half-erased notes from his last lesson. Rights are written. Justice is lived. "I fight," he said finally, "because they expect me to stop." Outside, the late afternoon sun flickered between clouds. Students laughed somewhere in the distance, high, unguarded, untarnished by fear. Lena sat on the edge of his desk. "You're still angry?" "Yes." "You plan to stay that way?" "Yes." Her lips parted as if to argue, but she didn't. Instead, she nodded. "Then use it." Marcus opened the box. Inside were envelopes, letters from strangers. Some handwritten, some typed, teachers, parents, lawyers, kids, stories poured out. I watched what they did to you. It happened to my brother. I didn't believe it until I saw it. He read until the words blurred. You built something, Marcus, Lena said. Even if you didn't mean to. He closed the lid gently. It shouldn't take trauma to make people listen. Maybe not, she said. But that's what they remember. Later that night, Marcus drove alone through the city. Every block was a memory. The intersection where it happened. The gas station where a kid filmed the footage. The church where the community held a vigil. He parked outside the police station and sat for a long time, headlights off. Through the glass doors, he saw officers coming and going. Daniels wasn't among them, his badge suspended pending appeal. Still, the sight of uniforms twisted something inside Marcus's chest. He thought of confronting them, of walking in and demanding to be seen again. But he didn't. Instead, he whispered, "Not tonight." He turned the key, drove off toward the river. The city light shimmered against the dark water. For the first time in months, he rolled down the window, letting the night air hit his face. His phone buzzed in a message from Jamal. Jamal, got into Howard, pre-law. Jamal, gonna finish what you started. Marcus stared at the screen until the word steadied his breath. He typed back, "You'll start your own fight. Don't inherit mine." He didn't send it. Instead, he watched the unsent message glow and fade, a reminder that legacy was both burden and seed. When he returned home, Lena was asleep on the couch, news flickering across the screen. The anchor's voice murmured, "A local district revises its stop-and-search policy following public outcry." Marcus turned off the TV. He stood in the doorway for a moment, staring out the window at the quiet street. The same one where police cars used to patrol too slow too often. Now it was just silence. He thought of his father again. Know your rights, son, but know your reality more. Reality had shown itself and he'd forced it into the record. That didn't heal the wound, but it made it visible. Marcus sat down, notebook open, pen in hand. He began to write. Not for the court, not for the press, but for himself. Justice isn't a verdict. It's a practice. Every truth revealed demands another spoken. Every silence broken makes the next one easier. I am not done. He stopped, stared at the words. They weren't triumph. They were continuation. Outside, dawn began to lift the horizon, quiet and steady. Marcus closed the notebook, set it beside the photo of his father, and whispered, "Your turn, son." The city exhaled. The story didn't end. It evolved. A year later, the case file of Reed versus Daniels sat in a law school library, cited, debated, footnoted. It had become precedent, but Marcus Reed never read the citation. He was too busy teaching. The classroom had changed. The world outside hadn't caught up, but inside these walls something had shifted, subtle but undeniable. Students raised their hands differently now, like their questions mattered in a way the world didn't always affirm. On the board, Marcus wrote 2 words in thick chalk: accountability, action. Who can tell me the difference between accountability and guilt? He asked Jamal, now a first-year law student visiting home, answered without hesitation. Guilt is emotion, accountability is structure. Marcus nodded. Exactly. Systems don't feel guilt. They feel pressure. The student scribbled notes. Jamal leaned against the back wall, watching, a quiet pride flickering in his eyes. During break, he approached Marcus. Howard's intense, he said. But I like it. Professors still talk about your case, Marcus smiled faintly. I'd rather they talk about the law that made it possible. Yeah, but they talk about you anyway. You made the system blink. Marcus didn't respond. He looked out the window instead, watching rain streak the glass. One blink isn't sight, he said. Keep making them see. Jamal nodded. You coming to the panel tomorrow? They're discussing the Daniels verdict and new civil rights reforms. No, Marcus said. I've heard enough people talk about justice. I'd rather teach someone how to make it. After class, the hallway buzzed with noise, lockers slamming, laughter, footsteps echoing. Life moving forward. Marcus walked past the bulletin board. A new poster caught his eye. Community Youth Legal Workshop, led by Marcus Reed and students. Someone had pinned a note beneath it. Change starts here. He almost smiled. That evening, he drove to his father's grave. The grass was trimmed, the air still. He placed a single folded page on the headstone, his handwritten reflection from months before. "You were right," he said quietly. "The law didn't know me, but now it has to remember." He stood in silence, wind threading through his coat. When he turned to leave, his phone buzzed again, a news alert. Federal oversight extended to local police department following misconduct review. He read it once, then locked the screen. Progress was slow, but it was visible now, documented, real. Back home, Lena was in the living room grading essays. She looked up as he entered. "You're late. Stopped to visit Dad. How's he doing?" Marcus smirked. "Still right," she chuckled softly. "You going to rest now?" "No," he said. "Tomorrow's the workshop." Lena studied him for a long moment. "You don't stop, do you?" Marcus glanced toward the window where the city lights shimmered faintly. "Neither does what we're fighting." She set down her papers, crossed the room, and kissed his forehead. "Then keep your armor clean." He looked at her, a rare, weary smile forming. "Always." Later, alone, he returned to his notebook. The same line stared back at him from the last page. "Justice isn't a verdict. It's a practice," he added one more sentence beneath it. "Legacy is not what survives you. It's what refuses to die." He closed the book, leaned back, and let the quiet settle around him. Outside, somewhere beyond the city's hum, another siren wailed. Another story was beginning. Marcus Reed no longer feared that sound. He understood it. It wasn't peace, but it was proof. Proof that the system, flawed and brutal, was still being forced to look at itself. He whispered, "Keep watching." And with that, he turned off the light. The night didn't end the story. It carried it forward.